So I want to talk about connection currency. And, this is inspired by we have the final of the Spinners of Fate series. There's 4 spots left next Friday, June 12th. And I want to say anytime I'm offer anything, if there is a theme, that theme is going to rock me. It's going to come into my life and it's going to school me and bitch slap me and make sure that when I show up for my people as a facilitator, as a priestess, as a steward of that teaching, that I am thoroughly primed. So this last, few weeks since our last Spinners of Fate, which was around home and belonging, is now moving into connection. It's moving into relationships. And so for me, because with any kind of sequence in life, maybe you've learned at this point, there's this midpoint. There's this point where a color is blending into the next color in the color wheel, and life is like that. It's not a stark contrast. There's a blending that happens. And so for me, what I'm exploring right now is connection currency, and how this is actually something that I have learned how to wield. I've seen the impact of it. I've seen the magic that happens when we tend the relationships in our life, or when we invest in relationships that have the possibility of creating something bigger for one another and for the world. And so this, if you've heard of like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And so what I've noticed in my life as somebody that has had a very complex relationship with money, I have found 1.5 billion ways to experience what it is to be nourished, to be well resourced, to have beautiful things in my life, to have decadent experiences, and many of which have not come because I have paid for them. But they have come because I have invested and tended and shown up to different relationships in my life, or I've been seen as somebody that continues to make ripples in my community in different ways. And so what happens is that is how connection currency works. It is this reciprocal exchange of connection that then begets more connection. It's the way that when you show up to somebody's life, or when you send that voice memo, or hey, maybe you just help that person at the door, those little moments, those ways of tending and caring for a moment of connection, then starts this experience of being considered. There are so many people in all of our lives, especially if you're living in cities. There's something, I wish I could name it properly, but there's something about a human mind can only track, do not quote me on this, do your research, but it's something like 200 people. That's like as many people that the mind can actually kind of have access to. And so to be considered as somebody in a person's 200, intimate relations actually takes a certain level of bringing yourself into their picture, or to showing up to those events, or to being that parent that keeps bringing your kids to the non-parent events. Hey-o! Because what I find is that the currency of exchange and being considered is so valuable. It's something that will open doors. It will open possibilities and opportunities that you could not pay for, with all the money in the world. You could not pay for these opportunities that solely are birthed through the a collaboration of will and desire, and the design that happens when people come together. That being said, y'all, that currency also can backfire. And so that's something that is really alive for me right now, as somebody that actually has valued, like, that I do my best to have like amicable relationships, even if we have differences. And so what happens when you start having an imprint on your community or on people around you that starts detracting opportunities and possibilities? It starts removing opportunities and possibilities, or creating a halt or a pause, or like, I'm not sure. And so this is like a really, really delicate, sensitive topic, I think, especially for people that are like me, living on small islands, and really anywhere. But like, when that story or that experience begins to become through, we call it, in Hawaii, we call it the coconut wireless. Here, I like to call it the cedar wireless. Is that we have to take responsibilities for all the stories and experiences and connections we've had in this life. And sometimes we mess up. And sometimes there are connections that have a different kind of medicine for us. There are opportunities and experiences that really shake up the fabric of possibility, because they're asking for something to be looked at. And so I just want to name that is, might be really real for some of you listening, being like, hey babe, well, I have a fucking like long list of people that do not like how I speak to them, or I have, for those of you that are public freedom speakers, for those of you that like go to the forefront of a thought and share that raw, unfiltered, honest thought that can be hard to chew. I know that there's many reasons why we can feel like the impact of the choices that we have and the actions and the way that we show up can detract from our connection currency. But I want to tell you that there's always opportunities to maybe not like mend, maybe, but also to keep leaning towards connection. And so what I've seen as somebody that's lived in community for way long, many, many communities, so many different people, is at the end of the day, anytime I have leaned toward connection, anytime I had leaned, even when that connection feels like fucking barbed wire that's going to like slice my body in half, I've found majority of the time it's like that fear and that primal fear of leaning towards repair, or of leaning towards clarity, or of leaning towards a relation that makes you feel like like whatever that issues happen between the two of you, or that's happened with mutual relations, it's like, it's that leaning towards that vulnerability of stepping into the fire a little bit, or your perceived fire, generally is what helps mend, or at least create lubrication towards that connection. Sometimes that lubrication might just look like a really clear boundary. It might just look like this person in my life is actually someone that I need to change my consideration for. And so when we change our considerations, it's this beautiful art of getting to adapt with the dynamics that are changing in our life, our social dynamics, the friend that breaks up with this friend, and then all of a sudden the whole friend network's like, what do? We like them both. It's like there is this natural adapting that happens with life, because life is going to change. It's going to rearrange itself. It's going to poke and prod. It's going to it's going to turn things up. So I just wanted to leave with that, is this feeling of, I mean, you might be like, Sarah took your advice, leaned forward, it sucked. But what can happen, I'm going to tell you, what can happen is you may be so humbled, you may be so relieved, you may be utterly surprised with the person that leans back towards you, with the perspectives that meet you, with a person's experience that is not what their experience in your mind is. Because guess what? Our minds cannot determine another person's complexity and nuanced experience. It's just not possible to ever be able to confirm what somebody is thinking or feeling without actually checking in with them. And even checking in with them, let's be honest, like, do we have the emotional vocabulary? Do we know ourselves enough to be able to feel and create like coherence with what's true on a deep level? Maybe not. But what I found is that when we come together, especially when our bodies come together, wow, but more in regards to like if you can see someone in person or if you can hear their voice, the mammal part of us, the physical part of us can read whether can read what's true or what feels like it needs more clarity or what feels like, oh, maybe I should speak to that. Maybe I should just name the sensation that I'm kind of feeling when I meet this person, because I need to know if I need to own that myself or if there's actually room for a deeper connection and opportunity here. Because who am I to this person? What am I saying in their mind? You know, it's like I do think that in life, like there's so many moments where like we are the characters in our friends' lives, and those characters don't necessarily think or act the way that we would. And so I think that's kind of part of what I've been doing with this year as I'm working with the word congruency is like, how do I find congruency not from inside of here, but from real life encounters that either meet and match my experience or show me a different perspective or have me like veer in a completely different direction towards finding that coherence and that congruency of connection. So that's my musing. Thank you for watching. On that note, y'all, there are 4 spots left for relations and connection, which is the final spinners of fate in the 3-part series. And so that is on June 12th at Ganges Yoga. Come on out. It is sassy, it is deep, it is rich, it is life-changing, and it will rock your world and reconfigure your world in relation to the declarations that you are holding so dear and true on a heart level, being witnessed by those around you, and spell casting a more beautiful, vibrant, well-resourced world. So come on out, reach out for me if funds are tight and we need an alternative exchange. Yeah, until next, ciao.